and welcome. I'm Letitia Griffin, and I'm here again for the next 30 minutes or so, and I'm here to just talk to you about any type of questions, concerns, problems, anything that you may have relating to debt, finances, your credit report, credit repair, any types of questions you have. Feel free to call in for the next few minutes. We've got a lot of great topics to discuss tonight, so feel free to call in at any time. Now, if you do not get a chance to call in, or let's say you're shy, you don't want to go on the air, you can always reach out to Family Credit and talk to a certified counselor at 800-994-3328. And I do recommend that you use the chat feature, because the chat feature will allow you to chat online with a certified counselor. Now, the great part about that is that you can ask any questions that you may have, so feel free to use that option. Now, last week we talked about recognizing scams, and so tonight we've got some questions, some topics that we'll be covering as well, but it looks like we've got our first caller. Hi, caller.
Hi.
Welcome to the show.
Hi. I recently pulled my credit report, and I think that I'm a victim of identity theft, and I'm not sure what to do.
Okay. That's a major concern that a lot of people have. Now, when you pull your report, the first thing you want to do is identify any red flags or any reasons why you think that you're the victim of identity theft. You will need to file a police report, and you need to get that report, and you need to get that, and we're going to tell you what to do with that in a minute. Now, after you file a police report, the next thing I want you to do is contact a credit reporting agency. There are 3 credit reporting agencies that we deal with, right? We've got TransUnion, Equifax, and Experian. Now, you don't need to contact all 3. You just need to contact one bureau. And what's going to happen is when you contact that one bureau, the other bureaus will then go ahead and contact the other 2. So if you just, let's say TransUnion, you can contact them, let them know what's going on. What they will do is they will put an alert on your credit report. The great thing about this alert is that it stops anyone from using your credit at that point. So you need that, especially if you feel like you've been victimized. You want to do that and contact the credit bureau, and they're going to put that notice on your report. Now, this is why you need the police report. After you've dealt with that, you've contacted the bureaus, they've noted your file, know that you're the victim of identity theft. Now you're going to take that police report and you need to submit that to the credit bureaus. They need to know the report number and all the information off of that, because what they're going to do at that point is put a freeze on your credit. Remember, when you first contacted them, they put a block on it. Now they're going to put a freeze on it. That freeze is going to make that more permanent. That way no one can touch your credit. No one can try and get credit in your name or anything like that. But also keep in mind, that means that you won't be able to obtain credit unless the organization is sure that they're talking to you. So that works out great, because that way you can look at your credit, you can figure out what's going on. You've contacted the credit bureaus, you've got the police report, you've got that on file. Now you want to look at your report and see how that's affected you. So many people are affected by identity theft. And so you want to make sure that you're paying attention to everything. Just because you feel like your credit report is being compromised, that's not where you stop. Now you need to look at your banking account. You want to keep all types of eyes on your account. Talk to your bank representative. Talk to your, call their 800 number, let them know that you think that you've been the victim of fraud. That way they note it on your account. If you've got that type of banking relationship where you can go into the bank and talk to someone, you do that. You want to make sure that you keep the communication open so that if they spot something, they will be able to tell you. And a lot of banks, even nowadays, they look at things and they monitor how you purchase, they monitor the things that you do when you pay your bills. And so if something seems off to them, a lot of times they're reaching out to you to let you know that something's wrong with your account. So you want to pay attention to that. And that was just a great question to get us started on today's show. Remember, we're still here for the next few minutes, so you can contact us at 312-738-1060 and ask your question live. Now, let's talk a little bit more about the importance of a credit report. A lot of people there's so many people out there that don't even pay attention to their credit report. And as a consumer advocate, I want you to be able to fully pay attention to your report, to know the importance. My job is to make sure that you are empowered, that you know about your credit profile, and that you are able to handle everything that's on it and handle your credit responsibly. That's my goal here. So let's talk a little bit about your credit report. I mentioned before that there are 3 different credit bureaus: TransUnion, Equifax, and Experian. TransUnion's the one that's most used here in the Midwest, but you know, Experian offers a pretty detailed report too. And a great way for you to even look at things or to try and compare things is just by doing some self-help yourself. What I mean by that is there are a lot of great tools out there that will help you monitor your own credit. And that's something that you need to be aware of. Everyone wants to know what's on their credit report, or you should want to know what's on your credit report. I know that the worst feeling in the world could possibly be going to apply for credit, not knowing what you're getting into, sitting down, talking to someone about, let's say, buying a home or buying a car. You've picked out the perfect car, you know what you want, you know what area you want to move to, and then they go to run your credit and they tell you you're denied. That's possibly the worst feeling ever. So I want you to avoid that. One thing that I can recommend for you is that if you know you want financing, you're thinking about financing, go and look at your credit report maybe 6 to 8 months in advance. This gives you some place to start. And the importance of that is knowing where you're at. We have to be realistic with our finances and with our goals, because it helps us paint our picture, our financial picture, and our outlook. You want to keep your credit profile as current as possible and know what's on it. And the only way for you to know what's on your credit report is to look at it. Now, if you don't understand it, that's fine. If you need help with it, you can contact Family Credit, talk to a credit counselor, and just get the information and help that you need at 800-994-3328. But the importance of you actually knowing your own finances and knowing what's going on, that plays a huge part in you being able to get whatever it is that you want. So when you're looking at your credit report, what do you pay attention to? Of course, the first things that come up on your credit report is your identifying information. Is that really you? Is that your address? Your previous addresses are going to show up, and that's important too. Now, you may not understand why it's important right now, but I guarantee you, anytime you go on for financing, they need to verify history. Your credit report actually shows that history too. It's a great place for you to start. Think about it. Your credit report lists your previous employers, your previous addresses. It lists the date that you actually started with the credit bureau. So that's some history right there, and that's one of the key factors of having your credit report and looking at it, is because it's going to show your history. Not just your credit history, but your history of who you are. Looks like we've got another caller. Hi, welcome to the show.
Hey, I was just wondering if you had any suggestions or ideas on what I could do to get my interest rates on my credit cards down. They're quite high in the 20s.
Oh, wow. That is a really great question. And let's touch a little bit on that. Now, when you're thinking about your credit cards, you want to pay attention to that interest rate. And a lot of times credit cards will start you with introductory interest rates too. But sometimes the interest goes up, and it goes up more than you can handle. A key factor for keeping your interest rates low is really not to use the credit. It may seem hard, but think about it. If you've got a card that's starting out at somewhere between 0 to 13% interest, introductory rate, and you stay under your credit limit, let's say they give you a $1,000 credit limit, but you only use maybe $100 to $200 worth on that card, and you've had it for a while, they're less likely to increase your interest rate. Or if they do, maybe your introductory period is over and they will increase your interest rate, but you can call them. That's the first step. You need to call your creditor and ask them to reduce your interest rate. But you want to make sure that by you doing that, you've got some weight behind it. If you're not overusing your credit, that's the best way that you can show them, hey, I really do need a lower interest rate. Now, what happens is if you continue to use your credit and you use, let's say you've got that $1,000 credit line and you use it all up, well, it's less likely that your creditor is not going to change your interest rate at all. And so you want to keep that in mind when you're dealing with your creditors, when you're dealing with the interest rates and you're looking at them. Another thing that you can think about, though, is doing a balance transfer offer if your creditor says no. You can look at some other cars. Maybe you've gotten some offers that have a lower interest rate. So we'll talk about balance transfers in a little bit too. Looks like we've got another caller. Hi, caller. Welcome to the show.
Hi. I am trying to qualify to rent an apartment, but my credit score is too low. How can I increase my score to qualify?
When you're thinking about renting, a lot of times the people that you're renting to, a lot of times they don't really look at the actual score itself. Now, the score gives them some place to start, so maybe they'll say, we won't look at anyone who scores under 600 or under 650. We'll rent to those with 650 or above. So you do want to look at your score, pay attention to it, but that's not really what the renters are looking for. What the landlords are looking for, they're looking to see consistency. They are looking to see that you are paying your rent on time. They're looking to see that you're paying your utilities on time. So one of the red flags that may pop up on your report is if you've got any types of judgments or collections from prior rental properties. So let's say you were staying somewhere and you had to be evicted, then that's going on your credit report 9 times out of 10, and that's what they're looking for. So you want to make sure that that's clear. Also, they're looking to see if you've got any past due utility bills, because that also is a red flag to them that maybe renting is a little bit too much for you. So they're looking to see if People's Gas shows up. They're looking to see if Nightcore is there. They're looking to see if Comcast is there. You want to pay attention to those things and take care of them before you even go out to apply. That way, it'll increase your odds of finding the perfect place for you to rent. And that way, you also risk having hurt feelings too. So, if you've got a rental and you know that your credit's not stellar, there are a couple of things that you yourself can do when you're talking to a potential landlord. You can offer them more for the deposit. You can see if they'll work a deal with you. And you can also explain your situation to them. Tell them the contributing factors and then ask for them to make that decision on their own. So don't count yourself out. But you do want to keep your credit score in order and make sure that you're paying attention to what's on your credit report. That's the most important things for renting. Even when you're looking to qualify for a mortgage, a lot of times people don't realize just how things come into play. When you're looking for a mortgage, they look at your income, they look at your credit, and they look at your employment history. Those are things that we need to pay attention to. So keep that in mind when you're looking to rent or buy. And we'll talk about that on another show as well. We were talking about balance transfer offers a few minutes ago, so I just wanted to touch on that for a few more seconds before we move on. When you're looking at when you're thinking about balance transfers, you need to remember that it really is a game. Credit is a game. And so when you're thinking about balance transfers, you want to do what's best for you. If you have a rate on a card that is too high for you, but you like the credit card company, you don't really want to change, then you may want to call them and see what's going to happen if they can lower your rate. Also, sometimes those credit card companies can tell you, okay, well, maybe we can't change your rate right now, but if you do these things, we may have some offers available in the future too. So that's something to keep in mind. But you also need to look at going to another lender and trying to figure out what's best for you. You always want to look at the interest rates, and whenever you accept a credit card offer, see how long that interest rate is good for. You want to know what you're getting yourself into and think about whether you can afford the payment on it or not too. Think about the credit limit. So let's say if you've got a $500 credit limit and you realize sometimes you may get into trouble, there may be things that happen that will cause you not to make the payment. Is there any possible way that you still have enough in reserves or saved that you can still make that credit card payment to? So those are things that you want to think about when you're dealing with credit cards and credit card companies. But the greatest place to start is just by calling them and seeing, what does it take for you to change my rate? It's really important to stay in contact and to develop those relationships, not only with your credit card companies, with your utility companies, and with your banking institution. It's a really great idea to keep that in mind too. And I do want to mention that Wintrust Bank just opened on Madison and Western, And they are having a grand opening next week, so you do want to check that out too. So there are some great options when you're thinking about banking, such as what type of account should you get. And talking to a banking representative really helps. So now that you want to keep in mind your credit and having a financial institution that you can go to and actually get some more information about or establish a relationship with, because that's what's going to strengthen your financial history in the future. So let's touch a little bit on the importance of having a banking relationship. Banks are there for a reason, and they're in the business to make money. So you want to make sure that you're staying in contact with them and you've got one that you feel comfortable with. Anytime you go into any place, anytime you apply for any type of services and you don't feel comfortable with that representative, then you shouldn't go back. You want to have relationships that work for you as far as your credit, your banking, and your finances. Looks like we've got another caller. Hi, caller.
Hi, I've been hearing about this budget plan. I was just trying to see what that is for utilities.
When you're looking at utilities, what your budget should look like? Is that what you're asking?
What the budget program is for utilities?
Oh, okay. Actually, looking at a budget plan is something that a lot of people should do more of. Now, let's say if you're thinking about your utilities and you're having problems affording them, and there's lots of times where you've struggled to make the payment, and sometimes it seems like bills just come out of nowhere. But if you're contacting your utility companies and figuring out what the average bill is like, that's a great place to start. And also, if you're looking to move or you're looking to rent a new property or buy a home, you can contact the utility companies themselves and find out what was the bill like before I even got here. That's going to go a long ways in helping you establish your budget. Now, once you have that done, you've made this call, they will give you an amount of what the bill looked like throughout the year, each and every single month, and they'll take that and they will average it to give you a consistent, steady payment that you will pay every single month for the next year. Now, that works out great, especially if you're struggling to make your bills. Let's say some months we use less than others, but if we're being consistent with that payment, let's say we're paying $80 every single month, that's something that we can budget for instead of $200 one month, $30 the next, maybe $10, then back to $200. So this is why it's really important, if you're thinking about a utility plan, contact your utility companies and see what the budget plan is available for you. Also, if you need help while you're trying to get everything set up, you can see if you qualify, if there's any type of assistance or any type of charity assistance that they may have going on. Because a lot of times utility companies, they also have help and they can refer you out for help. Sometimes the CETA program is open. Sometimes they have the Salvation Army sharing program. So there are options if you're struggling to make your utility payments too. So I want you to keep that in mind, that anytime you need help, if you do a little homework, you should be able to find some help for what you need. And I know sometimes situations may seem bleak and it may look like you're not getting anywhere, but please keep trying. Another great option that I want you to look at is when you're struggling with collections for medical bills. Medical bills a lot of times come out of nowhere, seriously, and there are some times where you may go to the hospital or go to an emergency room and not even realize the amount of debt that comes from the medical bills, the medical expenses, and you don't know what to do about it. Well, I want you to keep that in mind too, that there's help out there. There's charity assistance that's available through every hospital, every network. They've got charity assistance available for anyone, and anyone can qualify. Now, what you do is you contact the billing department and let them know, I need help. I can't pay this bill. There's no way that I can do that. And what's going to happen is they may send you out an application. They may ask you questions over the phone, but you will need to submit your income and your information to them so that they can see how much you qualify for. Now, that's a great option, because depending on the help that you need, that determines what you get. And some people say, well, it may not even be worth it, but honestly, it is. For you to actually go ahead and find out what you qualify for is a great thing for you to do. I had a consumer that I helped with years ago that had $150,000 in medical bills from an accident. That's a lot of debt to try and struggle with. And he was just on the verge of giving up. It had forced him to not be able to make his utility payments. He couldn't keep up on his rent. And so there was a lot of problems that stemmed from that. But we reached out to the hospital medical group, and we were able to get him charity assistance, and they forgave the whole debt. Think about it. That's a burden that was lifted just by reaching out, especially when you didn't want to. Like I said, there's help out there, but you really have to look for it. You've got to be diligent. You have to stay in control of your finances and in control of your situation. I do know it's hard. It's very hard for you to just, sometimes we may start and we may say we're in a good place, we are going to pay attention to our finances, we've got our goals, and then something happens. Out the blue, something may happen. But you've got to be able to realistically pick yourself up and start where you're at. Because just because you've fallen and your credit score may have plummeted a little bit from a late payment, guess what? If you start right now trying to make the payments again and you're making them more consistently, you'll be better off in 6 months than you are today. Your credit changes as you change. Your budget changes as you change. So we have to be able to adapt to our current situation and discipline ourselves to be able to just stay in control of our finances. So we've got some really great tools that I wanted to share with you for the last few minutes. And you can contact Family Credit too and pick up or contact them to get the My Spending Plan, which is a great option. If you're sitting at home, you're having budget help, you don't know where to go, where to start from a budget, contact a certified counselor at Family Credit. Ask for a spending plan, and this gives you a great place to start just by trying to even get things together. It gives you a place to start with your goals, with your knowing and recognizing your income, looking at your budget and your expenses, and it offers some great tips on how to get everything under control. So I do want to share that with you, and you can contact a counselor at Family Credit, and they will be able to send you out that spending plan. There's also spending plans that are available online on their website too, so you do want to check that out when you get a moment. Now also, a children's book that I wanted to share with you. Catherine and Elizabeth Go Shopping. This is a great place to start when getting kids to recognize money, with getting them to learn that there's an opportunity cost for every decision, with getting them to learn that money does not grow on trees. So that's another great tool that you can use, and it's all free. If you contact Family Credit, they will send it out to you or send you a link on an email, whatever works best for you. So remember that there is help when you need it. Now, next week we'll be back. And next week I do want to talk a little bit more about getting your finances together on the road to financial recovery. And we will focus a little bit next week, or maybe a lot, depending on the call volume. We'll focus on student loans because not a lot of people know what to do with student loans and how to get help for it. That's a great topic. And so we've gotten some consumers recently who have said that they need help with that. They don't know what to do, and it's ruining their budget. So we're going to talk a little bit about student loans, where to go for help, and how to get control of your finances too. So I want you to think about that. And like I said, we'll be back next week, but until then, if you need to talk to someone, or you have problems, or you need some advice from anyone, you can contact a counselor at Family Credit. You can chat online with the representative, and you can get the help that you need. Again, we'll be back next week to talk about some more finances, talk about any problems that you've got, any experiences. Feel free to call in and share those with us too, because you never know what you're doing that could help someone else too. So it's always good to hear from you, and callers keep calling in. We will see you back next week at this time. Have a good evening.